This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com, your place to explore the game.
Hey guys, this is Josh. I've got another deck tech here for you, and this one's a doozy. This one is Mishra, Artificer Prodigy. Alright, so let's start off with Mishra himself. Mishra is Grixis in 1 for a 4/4 legendary human artificer that says, whenever you play an artifact spell, you may search your graveyard, hand, and or library for a card with the same name as that spell and put it into play. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. Now, that may be one of the worst abilities in Commander, but like back in my Shiri video, you can make it work. Now, one of the main things that Mishra decks like to do is use stuff like Possibility Storm to double up on artifacts that you have. Like, I wouldn't want to say double up, but 2-for-1 artifacts into play. Or you've got your Blood Funnels and your Nether Voids that do kind of not the same thing, but they're cheating artifacts in and not being able to be countered. We are doing neither of those things. And I'm hoping you enjoy it, because it's actually really fun to do. So we're going to start off here with Mishra here, and then we've got our lands here. We've got 33 of them, and let's take a look here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 islands. We have 6 swamps. And 2 mountains. Red isn't a very strong color in here, though some cards may bite me in the butt eventually. So now we've got the shocks, we've got Blood Crypt, Steam Vents, and Watery Grave. Got your command towers, Crumbling Necropolis for colors, Glimmervoid, one of any color that in my mana pool. We've got a Temple of the False God and Ancient Tomb, tapping for 2 colorless. Ancient Tomb has been hurting me a lot recently, so I may be looking to change it for something else. But they're still really good cards. Alright, now let's go on to the utility lands here. We've got Reliquary Tower for no maximum hand size. Volrath's Stronghold, Academy Ruins, returning artifact creatures from my graveyard, or artifacts from the top of my library. Volrath's Stronghold would be really good too, though. Maybe that's what I should put in here instead of Tomb. Halimar Depths, putting the top 3 cards in my library in any order. It's pretty nice. We've got Polluted Delta and Bloodstained Mire. I don't have a Scalding Tarn yet, but maybe Battle of Zendikar will fix that. Grixis Panorama. It used to be one of the fetches, like Terramorphic Expanse or Evolving Wilds, but I realized that you can actually pay a colorless for this instead of just flat out sacrificing it. So it's pretty good. And then we've got the artifact lands. We've got Seat of the Synod, Vault of Whispers, Great Furnace, and Darksteel Citadel. Alright. Now let's get into the artifacts here. Mishra is an artificer, and as such, we like ourselves some artifacts. So let's start off. We've got Mox Opal. Easy, really easy to pull off the Metalcraft here. Soul Ring. Mana Vault. Expedition Map to tutor up lands, mainly stuff like Academy Ruins. Or colors, I should say. Elixir of Immortality. I needed a shuffle-in thing that wasn't an Eldrazi, which would be pretty cool, but I don't want to put an Eldrazi in every deck that I own. So, gains me some life, which is pretty scarce in this deck. So, and it's tutorable with Trinket Mage. So, great. Nihil Spellbomb. graveyard removal and cantrips me for a card if I pay black, which is pretty nice. Alright, we've got Mind Stone. I can sacrifice this to itself to draw a card off of it, and can tap and make a color and make a mana for it. So I like it, and I'm hearing it's pretty popular. This will be a theme that I'll probably be hammering in later when it's just like, this is popular, that's why I play it. We've got Darksteel Ingot, indestructible, and it can tap for any color. Coalition Relic, some nice little color fixing, and again, it's pretty popular, at least in my playgroup. Same with Chromatic Lantern, can fix for any color. Commander Sphere is a pretty new one, mainly because of the new commander decks that they made out. But sacrificing itself to draw a card and tapping for any of my commander's colors is pretty nice. Unstable Obelisk, another mana rock that lets me sack it to destroy a permanent, or pay 7, so it's kind of like a Spine that isn't as good. But it's still good. Spine is pretty good, I think. But Mimic Vat, it doesn't. It has its own synergies. I feel like Mimic Vat does, but that's what it was. Okay, so it's Mimic Vat. I mean, EDH or Commander is the board wipe suite here. So your board wipe scene, I should say. So you're more likely than not going to get a really nice artifact or a creature to put under there that you can just start abusing right away. Got Crawl Space. This is to keep the tribal and aggro decks in check that's trying to just swing out and kill you right away. We've got some of my favorite artifacts here. We've got Crystal Shard, which pays 3 and tap or a blue and tap to return target creature to its owner's hand unless they pay 1. And you've got Erratic Portal there that just does it for 1 colorless, but costs 4 instead of 3. And these are some of my 2 favorite ones, just because there's so many things you can do with them. You can be political and say, alright, I'll bounce your Ondu Giant or your Wood Elves or something like that and let you get another land if you want to be my friend. You can reuse your own come into play abilities from like creatures like Venser or Trinket Mage or something like that. And you can also punish people that are tapping out to play some big thing like your general. And then you can just, I'll tap, bounce that, and if they have just 1 left, you untap and then you do it again. Alright, we got Thran Dynamo. We need a lot of mana. We don't need a lot of mana, but our deck is very hungry for mana. So why not better than Thran Dynamo here? I'm here he's also pretty popular. We're getting close to something actually relevant here, but we've got Trading Post here. And Trading Post is, again, really a big value. The value for the life is nice. Making a blocker is nice. Sacrificing like a token or something like that to return an artifact to my hand is relevant. And I can do something like sack a Spine of Ish Sah to draw a card. There's value all around. That's why it's called Trading Post. Alright, here's something that's relevant. This is something that makes the Mishra deck. We've got Grinning Totem here. Grinning Totem is a converted cost 4, tap 2, and sacrifice it to search an opponent's library for a card and remove it from the game. Then you shuffle it. Until the beginning of the next upkeep, you may play that card. So the whole point of Mishra here is to exile cards from opponents' libraries or graveyards and then casting them. Now, if you had an artifact that was exiled through one of your abilities, you then look to see if your own deck has that, and then you double cast them. Well, not double cast. I mean, you will cast and then cheat 1 more into play. So the whole deck here, and I'll be showing some more enablers here, is just to be able to go, oh, looks like you're playing really popular things here. I think I am going to quote-unquote innovate here and steal your own stuff and then make my own as well. So Grinning Totem, the after that rant, I'm done with that rant here. But Grinning Totem here is actually pretty fun. Rebuying it with Academy Ruins is really nice, and just being able to say not just, hey, I got your own artifacts, but hey, I noticed you play blue, so you likely have a counter spell. So I could tap 2, sack it, search for a counter spell, and stop doing some bad thing that's happening to me. Gilded Lotus. I hear it's pretty popular, and I would probably agree with you. It's really nice mana rock there for colors. Alright, Mishra's Helix. This was the one, this is the fun include, or the flavor include, I should say, because I wanted to have at least one thing that was named Mishra in the deck, and the bauble just, that wasn't going to cut it. So Mishra's Helix, with all those mana rocks that I've told you here, if I had to start dropping a lot of them, I can easily just start saying, alright, I'm going to tap so-and-so's lands for this turn if I've got nothing else to do. Or at least taps down stuff like a Mazavith or something like that. So, I like him. Lore Seeker Stone. This is a pretty new one from the Commander lineup. Paying 3 to draw 3 cards and 1 more for paying 1 more colorless for each card in my hand. I don't want to say I'm hellbent frequently, but when your hand has been completely destroyed and you've got a Lore Seeker Stone out, that's the one thing you want. You can also start like tossing cards from your trading post there at end of turn for someone else to get a nicer Lore Seeker Stone untap when you start getting that. Plus, it's a nice little artifact that people have when you don't have access to like artifact card draw, like green or red, I would say, or anything like that. And I think the final one here is Spine of Ish Sah. 7 Vindicate, convert a cost 7, pretty much Vindicate that you can rebuy with every time it's destroyed. Alright, now we're down to creatures, and creatures are pretty fun too. I mean, I love me some artifacts, but why not artifact creatures? So we got Baleful Strix, flying death touch that draws me a card when it comes into play, so it's pretty nice. Trinket Mage, I already showed off that really nice convert a cost 1 or less stuff that it can get here, and I do love me some Trinket Mage. Here's another Mishra enabler here. This is Thada Adel, Acquisitor. She has Island Walk, and whenever she deals combat damage to a player, you may search that player's library for an artifact card and exile it. Then shuffle that library. Until the end of the turn, you may play that card. So, you drop Thada. Next turn, you drop Mishra, you attack, you steal their Soul Ring, you cast 1. You pay 1, you cast it. Mishra triggers, you search yourself for another Soul Ring. You could do that with Mana Vault, or you could do that with... I don't think you can do that with the artifact lands, but still, Thada is a really cool card, and she's a really nice addition to the Mishra deck. Feldon here is really new for the include. I used to have a Karu Spell Snatcher, and I ended up pulling her out and putting her back in here because she doesn't have as many interactions as Feldon here, and Feldon has actually been doing some pretty good work, so I'm not going to really cut him anytime soon. The double red is problematic. I don't want to say problematic, but it's just really hard to do, mainly because I've got 2 mountains, but plenty of color fixing, I feel like. So he is a 2 and a red. Tap, put a token into the battlefield that's a copy of target creature from my graveyard, except it's an artifact. Sacrifice it at the next end step, and it gains haste. And then, so this is really nice for some of the later creatures that I have here, like Wormcoil Engine or something like that, just doubling up on, like, just making tokens of stuff like that, dying, making more tokens, or something like Duplicant or Steel Hellkite or whatever. So Feldon, if it can be something as valuable as like an Archaeomancer, to just rebuy instants and sorceries and stuff like that. So Feldon is really cool, and I'm glad he's picked a side here. Hopefully people will get that joke. Burnished Hart. Just sack him, search for some basic lands, put him into play. And I'm told he's pretty popular, so why not just stay in there and double up on him whenever I steal them. Solemn, staple of the format. Really easy for me to steal. And why not get 2 lands and let them draw me some cards whenever I steal them. Phyrexian Metamorph, an artifact clone. That's pretty nice, don't you think? I don't think I really need to sing the praises of Phyrexian Metamorph. It's really good. Venser, Shaper Savant. He's your unbounce, he's your delayed counterspell, and I can do some fun shenanigans with stuff later in the deck with things like Ghostly Flicker. Silent Arbiter. Now, here's another little slow down, stop attacking me card, though this might actually make things pointed my way just to get rid of the Arbiter. Still, it's nice to have something against like an elf deck or a goblin deck or something like that. Archaeomancer. And then I'm just going to put them right next to each other. Izzet Chronarch and Mnemonic Wall. Archaeomancer is a bit cheaper than the rest of them, but they are all very valuable for me because I like instant sorceries in my deck, and so I want to rebuy them as much as possible, which is a bit harder to do than creatures. So they all have whenever they come into play, return target instant or sorcery from my graveyard to my hand. So more often than not, it's me dropping in there to get a Cyclonic Rift, or a Croesus Charm, or a Chaos Warp, or something like that. Just something to just get rid of whatever's going on here, and then I can bounce them back with like a Crystal Shard or a Mnemonic Wall, or I go Ghostly Flicker with them. That's actually a really fun little thing that I like to do here. Let me just move these over here. One of my favorite ways to use them is use Ghostly Flicker and then target that and then something else you want to blow up or deal with, like a Duplicant or a Spine of Ish Sah. And then when the Ghostly Flicker resolves, it's in the graveyard and these 2 blink. Archaeomancer can pick the Ghostly Flicker and you now have an instant speed, let's say Vindicate or something like that with 5x0. So they're really fun. It's really fun to have that little synergy package in here. Alright, we've got Havengul Lich. It's kind of a Mishra enabler. You can pay 1 and cast a creature from a graveyard this turn. Whenever you cast it, he gains that ability, but that's not really the relevant part here. The part is that I can cast creatures, or mainly artifact creatures, hopefully, from the graveyard, and then activating Mishra here to double them up. Hey, look, it's Wormcoil Engine. I don't think anyone was really surprised, especially since I was talking about it earlier. And Steel Hellkite. Who knew I had such friends in here? The destruction with the X on the bottom there for destroying target each non-land permanent with the converted cost X, whose controller was dealt damage this turn by Steel Hellkite, is pretty nice. And I'm also hearing that Steel Hellkite's pretty popular, so I could probably get 2 of them. Duplicant. I love to exile stuff. Sorry. It's a weakness of mine. Draining Whelk. I like creatures that are also counterspells. And a flyer with a really big toughness, probably. Doesn't hurt either. In true Q, Ghostly Flicker shenanigans, Erratic Portal or Crystal Shard shenanigans, and this is a really fun card that I like to use. Geth, Lord of the Vault. This guy's new, and I already know he's doing some work. This used to be a Beacon of Unrest, but I didn't like how it would shuffle itself back in instead of just going to the graveyard. So I picked up him, and he was already just smashing sliver decks. So He X in black, put target artifact or creature card from a converted cost X from an opponent's graveyard into battlefield under my control. Then that player puts the top X cards of their library into their graveyard. So I'm not really part of the milling, but I'm definitely for pulling your creatures and artifacts out of your graveyard and putting them into play for me. Ethereum Horn Sorcerer, an Is It colored artifact creature that lets me bounce it to itself, to my own hand, and then I can cascade. I mean, the cascade it's fun if I have just like nothing to do. If I'm like sitting here drawing nothing and I'm just starting to start casting Ethereum Horn Sorcerer every turn. Shieldred, the Whispering One. So I don't think I really need to say much about Shieldred since I feel like she's really powerful, and if you can like rift and then drop Shieldred, and then they have to start like they can't just start sacrificing little bits of their token armies or whatever. Shieldred becomes really great, and also is really helpful pulling my stuff out of my graveyard. Mainly the first ability there, the returning my own creatures. The Edict thing on the other end is just a little bit of the icing on the cake. Silent Blade Oni. Another bit of a Mishra card here. The ninjutsu is nice to bounce creatures to my hand and replaying for later use. And whenever he deals combat damage to a player, he looks at the player's hand, and then I cast a spell from that hand for free. So, hello artifacts. Also, if I've like rifted someone or Crosis Crypt something to your hand and then hit you with it, and then I can steal that card too. And then we got Mind Leech Mass right behind that, which does the same thing, kind of, but he has trample. So he's going to get in if you don't have enough toughness to block him. Alright, that's enough for the creatures here. Now let's get to the spells. We've got Mystic Speculation. So, Scry 3 with a buyback of 2 for 1 blue is pretty nice. It's nice for the, I want to say early game, and then later on when I'm just, my machine is running, then I can just pay 1 blue and maybe buy back it later if I need to. Got Mystical Tutor. Do I really need to say much about Mystical Tutor? It's Mystical Tutor. I'm going to search for an instant or sorcery here and put it on top of your library. Muddle the Mixture is great. It's a counter spell, it's a transmute, it does everything that I want Cyclonic Rift and Demonic Tutor for it to be. Praetor's Grasp. This is one of the first things that I included when I was starting to realize what Mishra could do. You search your target opponent's library for a card and exile it face down, and then that person shuffles their library. You may look at that card and play that card so long as it's remained exiled. So, yeah, I don't know. I've been telling you a whole video. You just search for an artifact that you wanted to double up on that you have in your library. You cast that, Mishra activates, you search for another one. Or you can do something like just withhold their part of their combo or something like that and just let them just not have it for the rest of the game. And of course we've got instant and sorcery like recovery with Mnemonic Wall and Is It Chronarch and Mnemonic Wall, and I can just start Praetor's Grasping multiple times. Ghostly Flicker. It is an uncomfortable thing to say that Ghostly Flicker is my favorite blue instant, even more so than Mystical Tutor. This has helped me so many times and like just completely turned the table. Exiling 2 target artifacts, creatures, and or lands. If it said enchantments, I would, if it paid like 1 more colorless, I would be perfectly more than happy. I would love to use Hedonist's Trove here. Chaos Warp. Shuffling likely commanders into their opponent's libraries and letting them whiff on a land or something like that, or not whiff, but gifting them a land is always fun to do. Likely not. I've had a few times though where I shuffle something away and now have an Eldrazi sitting in front of me, but I'm willing to take that risk. Croesus Charm. Grixis for choose one. Return target permanent to its owner's hand, or destroy target non-black creature, or destroy target artifact. I like the modes. Grixis Charm, I don't have the. I don't think I need it yet. I'm considering looking. I'm looking at it though. I'm like, I really want to put this in here, but it only has 2 things that I'd want, and the non-black thing isn't the problem yet. Hinder. Mainly for general control, or just countering in general. And then I've got Spell Crumple as well. Fabricate. A tutor for searching for an artifact. Memory Plunder. I like how you can override spell speeds on this. Being able to sit there and say, oh, you're going to attack me with everything. I'll Memory Plunder someone's Wrath. I'll Memory Plunder someone's Decree of Pain. And then it's casting now. It's not casting when it's available to me. So I do feel like I should add a Orborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, though. That would really help a lot. Right after that, we've got Bribery. Searching for a creature from an opponent's graveyard or library and putting it into play. I really like the art on this one. Not trying to boast or anything like that. Just it looks a lot cooler than the other regular ones. And I think, I don't want to say it's a staple, but it's definitely a very powerful card that at least 1 or 2 people have used against you or watched someone else use for like a Terastodon or an Ashen Rider or something like that. Right behind that is Acquire, the artifact equivalent, and it just searches opponent's library for an artifact and puts it into play. If I were to say anything about this deck, it's that this card right here is like the first thing that I would chop. Casting 5 to look for an artifact is not the most powerful thing. If I could, and I tried to, before I started this video, I would put in like a Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs, for another deterrent against attacking me, or a Carry Spell Snatcher for another Mind Jack effect, or Spell Jack effect. So, you're on notice, Acquire. Psychic Intrusion here was the card that made me want to first build a Mishra deck. Because I saw that and I went, oh wow, this will be really cool when they print more things that are like this in Theros, right? And then they didn't. And I'm stuck with Psychic Intrusion, which is still a card that I enjoy. Target opponent reveals his or her hand, and you choose a non-land card from that graveyard and or hand and exile it. You may cast it as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. And that's the problem there. You have to pay 5 to exile something, and then you have to cast the whole cost in order to play it. Though it is nice that you have any color to work with there. So you can get around like, oh, I can't play green or blue. Green or white. So I can actually use stuff like that, which is really cool. And I think this is the last Mishra enabler, Spelljack. Really long, high cost counter spell that pretty much turns it into my spell whenever I want it to be. Counter target spell. If it's countered this way, remove it from the game instead of putting it into the owner's graveyard. As long as it remains exiled from the game, you may play it as though it were in your hand without paying its mana cost. If it has an X spell, X is 0. And then the last spell we have here is Decree of Pain. Damnation is way too expensive for me, and maybe they'll find a way for it to put it back in there when they like do Modern Masters 2 or something. I don't know. But Decree of Pain does what I need to do, destroying all creatures and drawing a card for each card destroyed this way. Oops. Alright. We saw the last card, the really annoying card. So we got 3 cards left and they're all enchantments. Phyrexian Reclamation is 1. It's nice and cheap and returns creatures from our graveyard to my hand. That's what I need to do. Board wipe security, and I don't sack too many creatures, I suppose, but people are more than happy to blow up mine. Propaganda. A last little thing of don't attack me tech, I should say. Get my hands out of there. And then Rhystic Study. We've got the most annoying card in the game, not because it's powerful, which it is, but it makes you the most annoying person at the table because you got to meet the guy who says, like, "Are you going to pay 1 for that? Did you pay 1 for that? I'm going to draw a card because he didn't pay 1 for that. You missed your trigger. I'm just going to draw." So, and there you go. Again, this is my take on Mishra, but it is not everyone's take on Mishra. If you do want to look for stuff like Possibility Storm or Blood Funnel / Nethervoid, please go to like Gather, Magic, Gather.magic. I don't know the URL off the top of my head, but you know where Gatherer is, so you'd be able to go and look at Mishra's page and see what it says or what they want, what people have been gushing about. Alright guys, and that's the deck. Thanks for watching CMDR decks. Make sure you subscribe and favorite.